everyone you meet has a story. I believe that. You have to just be the survivor of your own story. And mine is like a million other immigrant stories, except for the very surprise ending.
And what led to the surprise ending, Toni?
Oh my gosh. How do we go back? Well, the second book that I wrote, title is Stone Doll. And it is an immigrant's memoir from war-torn Italy to the American dream. And that's how it begins. It begins, my earliest recollection in life is on a very small farm, a dirt farm essentially, in rural Italy, kind of in the middle of the country, north of Naples, south of Rome, in the countryside. And the adults went into the fields every day to work, and the children were left on their own. And I was, just a toddler, and my brother, and there was really nothing to play with. So you did what you could, and I would pick up these stones and wrap it in my mother's dishcloth. I would cradle it like I've seen all of the other moms and women in the community do. And from that point on, then the story becomes interesting. Leaving everything behind, coming to a very strange country, coming to Connecticut because I had two uncles that before the war and Mussolini's army, they were smuggled to America,
Wow.
and they were able to sponsor us to come to Connecticut.
Amazing. Now, you arrived at the age of 4 or 5, is
Five.
that right? 5 years old.
Right.
Didn't speak a word of English.
Nothing.
They put you in school.
They did, and in fact,
What happened?
in an elementary school in Naugatuck, Connecticut, it was an industrial community, a big factory town, chemical plant, and essentially they didn't know what to do with anyone that didn't speak English from another country. So they would stick you in the back of the classroom in a chair sort of in the corner. And there was no English as a second language or bilingual education. So you literally just sat there and listened and considered an oddity. And of course, we were extremely poor. So one of the things I remember that was embarrassing was that every day there was recess, and before recess, everyone got in line and they had their 5 cents to buy graham crackers and milk. And of course, I didn't have 5 cents, so I would have to stand outside of the line. And I was very shy and introverted because I would cry to my mom that, I speak to them, but they don't understand what I'm saying, and it was very isolating. But over time, and by the 4th grade, I can remember distinctly, that's when all of a sudden the light bulb went on. It's kind of like mainstreaming someone, just plucking them and putting them there. And all of a sudden, I started to understand, and then I was fortunate to have a couple of really amazing teachers that changed my life. It's always a teacher there.
We need those teachers. They are so valuable.
So valuable.
Exactly. So, you know what? I think if anybody could write the words American Dream and embody them, it would be you, Toni, because you've taken that education, all that learning, and you've given back so much to your community. Can you talk to us a little bit about a few of the things that you like to really, highlight? Because there's so much. I think there's Route 7.
Oh my gosh! Well,
let's
that
start
was
some transportation because Toni's had a lot of influence in our roadways. And thank God 7's 4 lanes now. Thank you for that.
Yes, you're very welcome. Well, I would never have imagined, in elementary or high school that I would ever be in a position in a political office. In fact, I went to college in Washington, D.C. at American University, and I quickly learned that, politics was for the well-heeled, coming from a wealthy background. They had great connections, and that wasn't me. So I was very good in foreign languages. So for a year, I taught foreign language and was immediately drawn into the business sector. And I became an executive trainee for the Westin Hotels, building 1,000-room hotels, and rose to the near top of that profession. And then later on worked at GE. And then during my time in politics, worked for an investment firm where I got my Series 7, which is kind of like a CPA only for the brokerage industry.
Of course.
But very quickly, speaking up at a board of education public
A
hearing.
BOE hearing.
I had to say something because my father always would say, as an uneducated person, that education is everything. It's the way out of poverty. It's the path to freedom so that you can have control over your life. And so that became our mantra through life. And so I said something, and all of a sudden I got a phone call at 10:30 at night. We would like to run you for the Board of Education.
I love
Now,
it.
I was in no political party. I was unaffiliated. And I said, well, what is that? That's how uninformed I was. But before long, I was not only on the Board of Ed, I was appointed to the State Board of Education, then on the Board of Selectmen, and then ultimately in the House of Representatives for 12 years, and then in the Senate for 10. And over that period, I was in the minority all the time. But again, your beginning statement was about relationships, and that became
Yep.
the success of anything that I was able to do. And that was the first thing was, oh my God, they wanted to build a superhighway through our towns. Oh my God, the governor wanted to shut down our rail lines. That was a spur, the branch line. And then other things started to happen. And I quickly got engaged and started to be involved in some of the biggest bills that the state had, such as the gun bill after Sandy Hook.
Oh my goodness, thank
the
you.
woman's right to choose, capital punishment, gay marriage. And I found myself really in the middle of all of those big issues.
So you are a Republican, I believe. You still are. You may
I
change
am.
your
I'm
party
I'm pretty much the most liberal Republican you'll ever meet. On
We love
social
that.
issues, I'm extremely liberal. On financial issues, because of the way I was brought up poor, I tend to be more conservative. But I'm sure at some point at the end of my political journey, I'll go back to where I started, which is unaffiliated, more than likely. But it has been, I've met some wonderful people on both sides of the aisle. And that's the key to life.
Key to life.
Key to life. Relationships, no matter what political leanings, from wherever you come, at the bottom of the economic level to the very top, which I've
Exactly.
represented both. And so for me, that is key, and it enriches your life.
Amazing. So what I want people to really understand, we're sitting here with Toni Boucher. She's the first select person of Wilton. She's been involved in political life for now 20 plus years, 25
At
years or
least,
so.
yes.
Plus you've had a very robust career in different areas, from being on Wall Street, Series 7, 63, et cetera. You also have an MBA, I believe.
From UConn, yes.
So-
my school right here. I'm
Oh,
very
you've got
proud.
UConn
I've got
right
my
there.
UConn. And why this first book is
Uh-huh.
called The Husky Effect.
Here, I'm going to hold up the Husky Effect.
The Husky
so we can
Effect,
see
that
it
is on
our YouTube
Amazon
video.
and is done very well. And it is about how the University of Connecticut is creating entrepreneurs of the future. And the Husky Effect is the branding, the strong branding of these national championship basketball teams has, literally affected the entire university. It went from 12,000 applications a year to 66,000 this year. It's incredible.
Unbelievable.
And because of the success and the surprise ending of my story, has to do with entrepreneurship, creating startups and creating jobs and changing and helping the economy, so to speak. That is why it's titled that.
Love that. Love that. And I too have an MBA. I'm a capitalist, and I believe in entrepreneurship. And one of the things that I'm so proud of Connecticut is we do some very fine things here in Connecticut,
do.
like machining, et cetera.
Oh,
but
yes.
Isn't it with
It is
Sikorsky?
amazing. People don't have a clue as to
They have no idea.
And it started from the beginning of colonial era. We were the invention state, the marketplace
Yeah.
for the small group of colonies during that time.
It's so exciting. So I'm just going to roll back the tape so people really do understand the trajectory of your story. You started as a very little girl on a dirt farm in Campania, Italy. You didn't
Correct.
even have a toy. You had to use a stone that was wrapped in your mother's dishcloth to have something to play with. And you arrive here in the United States with no words of English. You have to sit down in the back of the schoolroom and learn. And what do? But you rolled up your sleeves, you learned, and then you got involved with literally every aspect of life around you, which is so incredible. And I do hope people take inspiration from Toni's story, right?
I hope so. And I have to also say, as a woman that had to break a lot of glass ceilings along the way in a predominantly male-oriented environment, only 25 to 30% of politicians are female. In the investment world, it's very
Less.
male-dominated, in certain business sectors as well, you can't give up on yourself, and also build those relationships with the male leaders. And they help me probably more than anyone. I have female people that are inspiring me. Jody Rell as the female governor, and Ella Grasso on the Democratic
yeah.
side. They were inspirational women, but it was the certain men at each juncture when I was in the hotel industry that took me under their wings and pointed me in the right and gave me lots of responsibility. Even
So
when I
beautiful.
didn't think I could, handle it, they believed in me and that I could. And it's also true in the investment world. The president of our investment firm just, I said, well, I don't come from an investment background. He says, we'll teach you that. What we need is the kind of background that you bring that can relate to our clients. And he says, you'll get a Series 7. Boy, did I
That's a
not
hard
know.
one.
Oh, that was hard. A 6-hour exam. You have to,
So hard.
train, 6 months to a year ahead of time. It was very, very, very threatening.
That's a big accomplishment. I get it. I have one, but from back from 1985.
No
Yeah.
kidding.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Series
my gosh.
363.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, here
No,
we
it was
are.
way
We're
back in the
connected
day.
in that way. It is interesting, but I have to do a shout out to the men that do. And my husband was a great example of that. The two men that really inspired me the most is my father, without an education, was doggedly, determined and treated me like a male son instead of a frail woman. And so
Fabulous.
it was really
Yeah.
amazing. And my husband, who never, ever, ever gave up. And in not wanting to get married or have children, he was very persuasive and he never gave up.
I
But
love
he
it.
treated me as an equal and gave me free reign to do what I needed to do in my life, and he never gave up on his ideas, and that's part of the book, The Husky Effect, because he had so many failures. Now
Gosh.
I've had 17
God bless him.
elections, I've
Yeah.
won 15, but the
Wow.
two that I lost, they were nationally recognized because of losing so big, but giving a concession speech that gave people some inspiration.
Yeah,
And I would tell my
perfect.
interns, don't give up. Shake yourself off, failure after failure. Keep at it, because sooner or later, you will learn so much and you will ultimately succeed in life.
That is grit.
It's grit.
That's grit. And again, from a immigrant's perspective of what it takes to make it, to work hard, to get educated, to get involved, roll your sleeves up. And boy, Toni, nothing stopped you. Someone would say, try this, and you'd be like, of course I'll get on the BOE. Of course, why did I get an MBA? Well, yeah, of course, I'll write 2 books. Why not? And right, and you now are a grandmother.
I
by the
am.
way, I'm so sorry. Bud passed apparently
Yes.
5 years ago.
He did. He
Yeah.
passed away in January of 2021.
I'm sorry.
And only 2 weeks before realizing financially his great dream and his great success.
my
And on that
goodness.
day, I ended up with an LLC, publicly trading stock, a flooring company that had to install 65 hallways of click vinyl tile. I had to learn what that was. And so, and manage the family, and everyone was falling apart. I didn't know quite if I could survive that, but I did. And with every challenge, and it's in the book, to see just how hard it was to get to the point where I could make sure that his dream was realized. And through that success was great philanthropy. And he talked about it, not knowing he was going to pass away. He said, what's the good we can do? Where would you like to give some of our newfound resources? And we talked about it. And after he died, I made sure that everything he talked about was funded, and we were able to provide
Beautiful.
opportunities for other people that he was so concerned about.
That is beautiful. So, what are the philanthropies that you're still involved with? What are you working with?
Oh my goodness! Well, we've developed a relationship with Johns Hopkins University Hospital like 25 years ago with this special doctor, and we would always send $100 a year in his honor. And after he died, I could give substantially more, to the point where we could help fund a researcher to help him with some groundbreaking technology for men's health.
Oh,
So now I'm on
very cool.
advisory board for the Brady Clinic at Johns Hopkins University Hospital for men's health. I'm
Wow.
involved at UConn at their foundation. I've been very involved with Georgetown University in their Humanities Center, because as entrepreneurial and business oriented as I am, I also believe in the humanities. I believe in liberal arts, and that part of our education that sometimes is lacking. We concentrate on the technical skills. And then in addition to that, oh my goodness, there's some multiple more things locally in our communities. To his small college in Vermont, there's a career center in his name. There's oh my gosh, local
So
teen
great.
centers that he worked with. Foundations for the Rotaries, the American Legion. I mean, I can go on. The
I
Boy
love
Scouts.
it.
The little things around our communities that deserve our support.
So one of the things, of course, for me, because I'm a former figure skater, you donated an ice rink to Wilton. Is that correct?
To the town of New Canaan.
New Canaan. I'm
New
sorry.
Canaan,
Oh,
Connecticut.
lucky New Buchanan.
Well, because they supported me for 22 years in the political arena, and when I was asked by a beloved state rep, Tom O'Day,
Tom
who's
O'Day, of
also
course.
he's also an attorney, and what I found out about him is he's a special kind of attorney. If he's got a family case, he will actually go to their homes and to visit with their children on his free time, not charging anything. He's got a heart of gold. And when he came to me and said, Toni, we really like, I've been working on this for 12 years, and we have some, used equipment. We can do this pop-up, ice skating rink. And I said, can I get your help? And I said, well, how much do you need, Tom? And it was he just threw out a little number, and then there was this big number. And I talked to my estate attorney, and she goes, oh, I know Tom O'Day. He's wonderful. He does all this wonderful stuff. I said, can we both call him together and tell him what we're going to do?
Oh, wow.
And so
I
we
love
did
it.
together, and he was beside himself with, he was so happy. And it was, and I've been on that rink with my grandchildren. And it's like,
Adorable.
oh my God, it's like a Hallmark card movie with the twinkle lights, and the nice little skating rink with the little kids, pushing the little penguins around to keep them steady from falling over. And the older, members of the community and other communities can come and use it. But
It's
it
so
was
fabulous.
so heartwarming to see that happen.
So, Toni, I mean, I'm reading one of the most beautiful op-eds I've ever seen. It's really regarding your book, The Stone Doll, and this is a dear friend of yours who says, it's hard to really. You can't even get your arms around all the things that Toni has done for her community. I know you're.
Please don't get me started. You're going to make me tear up. And it's almost like in reading that, I feel like I'm reading my obituary and somebody's doing a eulogy, and it's like, okay, my time on earth is done.
No,
okay,
oh my gosh,
I'm
so much
good
more to
now.
do.
I'm really good. But it's very emotional for me to read that, as it was writing this book. It was very emotional. There was a part of that story that talks about my reading a book called Auschwitz, and it was a doctor that was in the camps and what happened to people. And as a 12-year-old, it just affected me so much. And when I talk about it, it brings me back to that child that I was, and reading about man's total inhumanity to man. And it's incomprehensible that anything like that could exist. And it just tore me up, and it stayed with me for the rest of my life. And so as a result, I worked a lot on a Holocaust education for our school children.
Love
But
that.
it is emotional to write something like that. It's much easier to write a book about business, something that doesn't
love
take
it.
you to your to your childhood.
Vulnerable feelings are good because I'm a therapist, so I'm always hoping people will talk about their feelings. But what I can really see is the gratitude that your community has for all the works that you've done to help in so many different ways, which is so beautiful.
Trevor. Okay, no, I am the grateful one. Imagine coming
exactly.
from this. I'm going to
Yes.
get a little verklempt right now,
love it.
because
Yeah.
imagine someone coming from my background and be given this rare opportunity to be so integral into our system of government that is given, hope for so many millions of immigrants that come here, with aspirations. How could I not be the one that's grateful? How could I not be the one that is so appreciative of being allowed to be involved in this way?
And that's exactly what I love, and why I'm so happy to be speaking with you, because you are a Republican, so I do get some help for just not
Well, a very
talking
liberal,
to
a very liberal one.
But this is really the point of my show in having you here, which is we really need to be able to talk to each other and
Yes, we do.
understand. And truly today, there's so much about immigration. There's so many things I could go down in this list, from you supporting research. I can't remember the university, Johns
Hopkins University Hospital.
Hospital. It just goes on and on that are probably butting up against some of the things that the Republican Trump administration is trying to effectuate today.
Right.
And it's got to be a tough thing to watch some of that for you.
It is very tough, especially when you so disagree, and your life's work has been, contrary to a lot of all of that, I have to say. And that's why I tell everyone, I've taken my political hat off and I only wear my town hat. That's the only political party that I'm, involved in right now. It can be disappointing because words matter, and words can unify or they can divide. And we need to bring that back. In fact, one of the things that is not in the book is I was asked to serve on the National Institute for Civil Discourse, an organization started after Gabby Giffords was shot in Arizona. And what we do is we go to other states and talk to the legislators and teach them how to speak with each other and learn about each other, develop relationships so you understand you're not that far apart, or at least if you are, do it in a civil, respectful way, respecting each other's views, not necessarily having to agree.
There's
So-
so much common ground that we can find, and I think what you're
Absolutely.
talking about right now is a big part of that.
I agree.
This is Lisa Hannick, our executive producer, and we all have very strong feelings around many of these things. But as you're saying, nothing can get done without relationships, and you've been able to in your career reach across the aisle, learn to speak, learn to listen, and really do this sort of civil discourse, which unfortunately we've gotten to political violence. It's gotten way.
It really has gotten too far. It really
too
is. It's
far.
amazing. I've had a lot of experience with meeting my colleagues on the other side of the aisle and working out language for certain bills they cared about or that I cared about by explaining what the other side doesn't find acceptable and bringing it to language that will meet in the middle and get something through. And getting to yes, it doesn't have to be no, and you don't have to get everything you want. You can get partially what you want and partially what they want, and that's the way to move something forward.
That's absolutely right, and I think we still have a lot to learn. So don't stop talking. Now, do you have any plans to retire? Because I can't imagine you're still doing so much.
Well, I think the word retirement is not in my vocabulary. However, finding other exciting ventures and opportunities for growth. I'm at that stage where I really love mentoring students, and I have interns at my town hall when I have
love
interns in Hartford. So there's always opportunities to impart what you know, but I also am learning. I'm learning about AI. How do you use AI? This is a whole new world. And so there's so much more to learn. And I think you never, ever should stop learning.
I totally love that. So we're going to go to a station break. Just a reminder, this is Trevor Crow. The show is Trevor and Friends. I've been sitting with Toni Boucher. She's the author of Stone Doll and the Husky Effect, How UConn is Creating Entrepreneurs of the Future. She is also Wilton's first select person and a longtime state senator and state rep. So, Toni, thank you very much for talking about your story with us. And
I just thought we should credit the author of
Oh,
this
yes.
nice op-ed about Toni.
Who did write this op-ed? We need a shout out.
Mr. Steve Hutzfeld. We call him
Steve
the
Hutzfeld.
conscience of Wilton, the most ethical person I think you'll ever meet, a wonderful human being with a compassionate heart and always a view to uniting the community.
We love that. Okay, Toni, thank you so much. We're going to go to a station break. We'll be right back.